illustration and art, that would be great.
Yeah, so most of my illustrations are usually just like quick little illustrations that I do for articles that I write for just personal reasons about some of the work I do. So usually they're pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else might be useful information for you. I use an app called Paper by 53 to do most of them, just because it's quick and easy, and it sort of stays out of the way.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But you have, I believe you have used either Clip Studio or Procreate as well, right? You tried a whole bunch of them. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've used Procreate a little bit for some sketches. I'm going to quickly look at what I did in there because I don't remember all of a sudden. Where is Procreate? Yeah, so I mean, I did some like personal fiddly bits and pieces, like you know, drawing some letters, like typography type stuff, quickly sketching out some early ideas for an interface, and just doing some like random sort of shape sketches, like more art than, yeah, but not necessarily for work, just sort of like doodling for Procreate.
Right. I did see your example, and definitely, I see how you're using these illustrations to support and illustrate your points.
Yeah.
So when you're doing the illustration, it's pretty quick process, though. But at least maybe talk about how you go from the beginning of the illustration to something that you're happy with. Like, what are you doing and all of that.
Yeah. So usually I'll spend a little bit of time trying to figure out like what sort of concept or content I want to put in there. So, thinking about, okay, which point do I have here? What do I need a visual illustration of? So if it's something like, I can't think of an example right now, but I'm trying to figure that out. And then once I've sort of got an idea, I usually actually draw it out pretty quickly. So it's sort of like, I don't necessarily do too many iterations, since that's more my day job when I'm doing product design, sort of like come up with a bunch of ideas and iterate. But when I'm sort of doing my illustrations for my personal work, it's kind of like usually towards the end of the process. And I'm like, well, I've done the writing. Now I just kind of want to get the illustrations in there as well to add some visual interest.
Okay, got it. And because I did read that you tried a whole bunch of different ones, different programs before saying that you're using your primary one. Tell me about that process, why you were looking at all the different programs, and what was that like for you?
Yeah, so that was mostly around using them for product design rather than illustration, which I think might be a little different. But basically, the main sort of requirements that I was trying to come up with for myself was sort of like which app would make it faster for me to sketch on iPad than on paper. So it was sort of about striking a balance between not being super heavy with features that would get in my way and not being so light that it was just replicating paper. And I think like, yeah, does that sort of answer your question?
Right.
Or is there a particular part you want me?
Yeah, I also wanted to understand like why Paper 53 went out versus like Procreate and the other ones that you
Yeah, so Paper has like these 1 or 2 or 3 little features that made it super fast to do a lot of what I wanted to do. So it has, I think it's called their drafting tool, which just turns, if you draw sort of a square, it makes it an actual square. And then it also has this really nice feature where if you're drawing with your pencil, then you can use your finger, and whatever you use for your finger is basically like doing selection. So it makes selecting stuff, duplicating stuff super quick and easy. And then also like the smart shape. So when you draw like that square, that it recognizes the square and makes a square, you can sort of like tap that, duplicate it, and move it around super quickly. So it's really just like, it just lets me move faster without getting in the way.
Okay, so it sounds like it's lean enough, right? It doesn't get in the way with all these features, and it has some features that allows you to work faster.
Yeah, and then it also like, it's not super pretty. Like the end results from it aren't beautiful, which is kind of helpful in framing things that I'm handing off to an engineer to know like, this is a sketch. It's not final artwork.
Right. Right. Yeah. Okay. So actually, I'd be interested in you showing me some of the selection, features in
Sure.
53 if you can, because you've got your iPad hooked up. So that'd be great.
Yeah. Let me.
It'd be great to see the interface, and why you like it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So you can see my screen now?
You can see your screen. Yep.
Perfect. So they just changed the selection to be a little less good, but I'll still show you. Let's see. What do I want?
So this is paper 53, right?
Yeah, this is paper by 53. They just switched. Pardon?
Paper by 53. Got it.
Yeah. So this is just like some quick sketching I was doing earlier on for work.
Yeah, it's really oriented. Yep.
Super low fidelity. And so I guess you can't see me and the iPad, but if I just tap one of these rectangles with my,
actually,
there are a few bugs with it still.
Yep. Like maybe starting a fresh blank screen and just drawing some of the things that you usually draw when you're doing stuff for your articles. And I just kind of want to see your process from scratch real quick. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's a very long process.
Yeah, not at all. Okay, so let me do a new notebook with a new page. So let's say I'm writing an article about like onboarding people, and there's sort of two parts to it. One is like sort of doing data research, and so I'll probably start off by just trying to come up with some like quickly generate a few different ideas. So I'll be like, oh, maybe there's like, let me switch to the fill tool. Maybe there's a person who has a magnifying glass. Let's do this guy. Or maybe, what else is there for research? Maybe it's sort of like about talking to people. So let me do a little guy. There are a few little bugs, unfortunately. Let's do him talking to some other people to do research. Let's do a red person.
Well, that's interesting how it just makes the shape for you. Okay. Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, it's sort of useful. It's not like super crazy useful. So the other thing is like, if I use my finger, it automatically switches to the selection mode, but I need a little more accuracy for figuring this part out. So I'm gonna use a pencil.
So are you selecting? Did you just select something with the pencil? Of course, because I can't see your pencil. So
right. So I mean, what's kind of nice is like, let's say I've got the pen tool selected, and if I draw with my pencil, it draws. Okay. But while that's still selected, I can just use my finger and draw on the iPad, and that turns into the selection tool instead.
Oh, that's intuitive. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah. It's not, I mean, it wasn't super intuitive, I would say, but like when I found out about it, it was super quick and easy, which was nice.
Right.
And then you can just like swipe something away to throw it away.
Right. Okay. So what about using the pencil tool to do selections and moving things around or resizing? How do you do that here?
Yeah, so I do that if I need to be sort of more accurate. So then you select the the scissor tool here, and then draw around stuff again. Okay. Or maybe zoom in and be like, oh, I don't know why his nose is so squiggly, so we're gonna redo that. Yeah, usually I use a pencil selection if I'm trying to be more accurate, and I just use my finger if I'm like, oh, these guys over here need to be closer, so it's clear that they're talking or whatever.
So it sounds like it's not like one select tool, right? But selection is part of the action of another tool, because it sounds like you select it and you cut, right? You choose the scissor to cut, but you're able to select.
Yeah. So scissor is what you use to select.
Okay, is what you use to select. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and then once something is selected, then you can do all the selection stuff like move it around or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So how is that working for you today?
It's good. The other thing that I like about this is, so once you have something selected and you move it around, so I'm holding that with one finger right now. If I tap with another finger, that automatically duplicates it. Okay. which I actually do on physical paper all the time now because it's something I rely on so heavily.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I sort of went off tangent. What was your question?
Oh, I wanted to understand how selection and move worked. You know, like what are the interactions you're doing in order to select and then move something?
Yeah, so it's either, when you have a pen or pencil selected, you use your finger to draw this outline, or you can select the scissor tool and then use the pencil to do the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how are you selecting and resizing in this program?
This program does not have resizing as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just tried to resize and instead it made a duplicate. So since it's like mostly sort of quick and dirty type stuff, I will, just, if something's the wrong size, I'll redraw it. I'll sort of undo and then redraw it.
So if you were going to describe your workflows of why you're using paper, what would be the workflows in general of why you're going here and using paper?
I think since it just encourages me to be sort of fast rather than super polished. I'm rarely doing like super high fidelity, really polished design like sketches on here. Usually by the time I'm doing that, I'll move into something like, depending on what I'm working on, but either Sketch for product design or maybe Photoshop or something like that. But I pretty much never do higher fidelity illustrations.
Okay. And when you say Sketch for product design, what are you actually doing in Sketch? And also what are you doing in Photoshop?
Yeah, so Sketch, are you familiar with the app Sketch?
I am, yes.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, in Sketch, then it's like figuring out which of our existing components we should use for this, sort of mocking up multiple versions at a slightly higher fidelity. Photoshop, actually, usually for things that I'm doing in Photoshop, I start in Photoshop. So I was just making a poster for a work event, and that just got started in Photoshop. Because it was mainly sort of like we had a few images that we were trying to use and figuring out how they would work together. Yeah.
Got it. And then, okay, so then do you ever take these images and import them into another medium, or are these images ready to go, once you're done?
Yeah, so when I'm sketching something on here, I'll then send it to my computer and open it in, when I'm doing product design, I'll sketch it on here and then send it to my computer and open it in Sketch. And then I'll sort of like keep those both open next to each other, keep the sketch, I'll say drawing, keep the drawing open as an image whilst I'm building it again in Sketch. And yeah, then once I'm sort of like far enough along, I'll just delete that drawing and just focus on the sketch.
I see.
Confusing names.
Yeah, yes, I know. It is kind of paper Sketch, right? So I'm like, well, so how come you're doing a finished product on Sketch and not sketching, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say a finished product in Sketch, because I saw some of your mock-ups of what you're doing on paper, right, on this paper. What's the fidelity or quality of what you're doing in Sketch?
Well, Sketch is all product design, so that, pardon?
So can you just show me an example of what you're doing in Sketch?
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I have that's not behind a non-compete or whatever it's called.
Well, let's not do that. I don't want to get you in trouble. But I'm curious why you would like take something that you create on paper. Oh, I see. So paper is kind of like a scratch paper doodling idea, and Sketch is something more finished and more designed. So it's
more high fidelity. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So it's like I use paper to come up with a whole but like 20 different ideas, and then I take like the top 3 or 4 into Sketch and start building those out with our actual brand typefaces, our actual brand colors, figure out the actual sizes, get our actual components. So it's sort of like I'll draw a rectangle in paper to represent a button, and then in Sketch I'll put an actual our visually designed button there with its proper radius and that sort of stuff.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. What's the advantage of using, I guess the iPad and drawing in this program versus just drawing on pieces of paper for your workflow?
Yeah, for me, it just means that there's nothing to keep track of Nothing to keep track of. So like, you know, papers or whatever just take up space and I lose them. And then it's also just faster for me having undo and duplicate, because quite often I want to take an idea that I've got and do a version of it. So I do that sort of like two-fingered copy paste thing, and then can just like make a few quick changes right there,
Right.
instead of having to redraw the entire like phone screen again, and et cetera, et cetera.
Got it. Okay, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and switch gears, and I'd like you to open up our prototype that I sent for you to install. Let's go ahead and show that now.
Okay.
Great.
Cool.
So,
yep.
Go ahead. Just gonna have you minutes drawing something, and then I will ask you to make selections and, you know, do other things with it. But I'm just gonna watch you, and if you have any comments while you're doing that, let me know, you know, or
okay.
And if you have any questions, also let me know. But I'm probably gonna give you around 5 minutes to draw. Okay.
Okay. Cool. So let's see what this tool in the top left is. Okay, that's the pen or something. Oh, it's the same undo gesture as paper. That's nice. Oh, this looks like it's vector stuff. Nope, never mind. Wait, maybe this is vector stuff? I don't know what this is. Okay, it's just more of a different pen. Eraser, moving, lasso, paint bucket. Okay. So let's just try drawing one of my people. I guess can I fill him in? It would be nice if there were like just some pre-selected preset colors. Okay, no, I can't fill him. Let's try this guy. Can I fill him or how? No. Okay, what does the paint bucket do?
So not all of it's working right now, just so you know.
Okay, that makes more sense then. Okay. Yeah, so that guy. It seems like the pencil's definitely a little laggier in this app, which is kind of difficult for accuracy, but yep. I assume that's also prototype stuff.
It is prototype stuff, but it's good to note that it feels laggy right now.
Yeah, cool. Yep. I'm glad that's useful.
Yep.
So let's do the same thing as last time. I'll do a person. And then they've got a magnifying glass. Yeah, it feels like something's off with the pencil tracking. Oh, I think it like skips a bunch of spots. Undo. Okay. And then if we do, I guess there's no actual like fill tool. So let's switch this guy over to red. Let's switch this guy over to yellow. These colors are. Okay, I'm guessing the color picker is also not fully functional yet.
Some of it's functional, but some of it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's try. Okay, so now I want to erase this guy. Actually, let's see if we can do that by selection, which would be, I guess, the lasso. I don't follow all of these icons. When I saw the first one, I was like, okay, additive selection. So I select one thing and then select another and they'll both be selected. I don't know what the ones below that are, so I'll come back to that in a minute.
Okay. And not all of those
are
no either, but yes, let's just keep playing for a little bit.
Okay. Oh, interesting. This feels like a lot of work just to get something to move around. Oh, why didn't the other stuff move with that selection?
Okay, so the expectation is that the other stuff would move with it?
Yeah, because I drew a box around this person because I kind of want to get rid of them. And then I hit move, and when I drag, yeah, the person didn't move with it, but I would expect it to. I also sort of expected once I completed a full shape that the select tool would have switched to the move tool, I think. So wait, deselect. So if I draw this box here, once the box is complete, which there's no indication of, but once the box was complete, I sort of expected to automatically switch to move. What is more? Save selection, interesting. View mode. Marching ants over, okay. Can I delete this from here? Oh, that only deleted the layer, not the selection. That was not what I was expecting. Do any of these other ones work? No, okay. So I don't know how to move this person.
Yeah,
if I wanted to.
I'm just going to step back and let you play and not have to chat with me so that you have a chance to just sort of interact without my interference. And then we can talk in around 3 to 5 minutes, because I find that it's, you know, not always helpful to have to talk to someone while you're figuring out a program. So.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, just play for a little bit. No wrong answers. I'll just be here and I'll chime in around 5 or 10 minutes based on what you're doing. All right.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, but the goal is to play with selection.
Okay.
Stuff with selection.
I think I have the pen tool selected, so let's. Okay, and then, oh, there's the arrow to select stuff. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Let's get 2 people. So, oh, those are both selected.
Oh, and if you use that second brush, the selection doesn't work, unfortunately. It will in the future.
Oh, so it only works for the pencil. Okay.
There's a whole bunch of other potential brushes there if you want to just explore how would you access other than pencil.
Okay, I thought I saw the arrow and I thought that meant there was more stuff, but then there was like the little panel next to it, which I thought was the more stuff, but that's good to know.
Oh, interesting. So you interpreted that you were already into the more stuff because there was a panel with that up here. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that was pointing at it. That being said, I figured it out for the gradient tool, so I don't know why that was different.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you not drawing now? What's going on? Okay, there we go. Weird. No? Really does not want me to draw his legs. Oh, interesting. Sort of working, whatever. Okay. So let's try this selection again and see what happens. Okay, no, that does not still work. So deselect I have to do to get rid of it. But I can use this guy. Okay. Oh. How do I now move him? Nope. Can I move him? Okay, I guess maybe I need to think of this more like Photoshop, where like everything is a layer and I'd just be moving the layer. Okay, so new layer with a new person. Okay, so now that I have 2 layers, it sort of behaves more like what I was expecting. That doesn't look that cool. That do probably nothing. Okay. So let's see here. Check out these other brushes. Oh, it has a color on it. That's neat. Oh, some weird lag with this layer. Okay, yeah, need to do multiple layers.
So here's a workflow. So it sounds like you're saying you need to do multiple layers to move things. Can you explain that paradigm that you're talking about?
Yeah, so I sort of was like, let me move this magnifying glass to be closer to the person.
Okay.
Oh wait, did I put him on the wrong layer? Oh no, it says it's okay. Yeah, so I think like whenever you select the move tool or select tool, I think it's the move tool. It selects everything on the layer.
Mm-hmm.
So if I put something new on this layer, like something like a squiggle, now if I want to move that, yeah. So the entire layer moves at a time.
Okay, so how does that work for your workflow?
I think like if I were doing higher fidelity stuff, that would make more sense. I think I would probably, for like my super fast sketches, I probably wouldn't necessarily use multiple layers. Or I would, you know, I think occasionally what I do is, because Paper by 53 doesn't support layers, but occasionally I need to use one. And so the way of doing that is to take a screenshot, place that down as an image, and then sort of draw on top of that. Which I use if I'm sort of like have one idea that has pieces I need to copy. I'm sort of confused about why there's a select tool if I can't move stuff.
Yeah,
or why there's a lasso tool.
Yeah, I like you to explore the select tool and try to move stuff
Okay.
in general in the program.
Select tool, is that, you mean the lasso tool?
Yeah, so let's give you the task of moving the magnifying glass, because there is a way to do that. So let's see how you.
Interesting.
Yep.
Oh, that was weird. Nope. How do I mean, this is what I did before and it didn't work. Oh, this time it did. Nope. No, it didn't. Maybe it's one of these. No, these other ones. These other like selection types in here don't work. Oh, selection properties.
Yeah. What do you think?
No, none of that seems relevant. Sorry?
What do you think about those selection properties?
Yeah, I mean, coming from Photoshop, this is sort of what I'd expect. Feather, you know, sort of blurring the edges or feathering the edges. Smooth, I assume, is like, you know, instead of just having points where things connect, smoothing that out. I'm not sure what expand contract would be. Oh, that just scales it, which is fine. Probably, I can't imagine using that, but I mean, I guess if I don't know. So there is a way to move. There is a way to move this. I just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Let's see. I want a new layer. No. Hide selection, save selection, invert, view mode. Oh, do I switch to this tool now? No, that. Oh, there we go. Okay. That took a long time.
Yeah, so explain to me what you think is happening.
Yeah. So I have to select with one tool and then, yeah, switch to the move tool. Okay. Yeah, so I guess this matches sort of the Photoshop idea. So I think what I was getting confused by is I would use the select tool and I saw move down here, which I didn't think of as moving the selection so much as moving what was selected. And then I actually have to switch to the move tool to move the selection on the layer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, which I think is how it works in Photoshop as well.
Well, how does it work for you as a workflow?
Yeah, so I mean, Sketch is a vector-based app, so I usually you select an object and it's selected and you move it around, and that is, you're not like selecting from within a layer. I feel like this probably allows for more flexibility, but you know, when I spoke about paper, I was talking about how fast I liked it, how I liked how it was fast, whereas here it feels like, wait, why are you all selected now? Oh yeah, here it feels like a lot of steps. So it's one, draw a box, or draw a box, there we go. Switch tools. Oh, there's a bug. Let me start again. Deselect. That's your tool. Draw a box. Draw a box. Okay, draw a box. Switch to move, and then move. Yeah, I think that it seems fine once I learned it, but it kind of feels like a lot of steps.
How would you make that magnifying glass bigger or smaller?
So I'm going to first try like unpinching.
Sure, yeah.
Yep, there we go. That worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said it feels like a lot of steps.
Yeah, but that could just be because the prototype's still a little slow. So it's like I hit the button and I draw a circle, then the circle shows up, then I switch tools. So it could be that as well. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to have you explore some of the menus around selection and move. I'm not sure what works, but I just like you to explore for a little while
Okay.
and talk, okay?
And talk? Sure. So let's start with...
Yeah, you can talk aloud, you can talk after, whatever works best for you.
Okay, so looking at the selection / lasso tool, I don't know what these middle two icons are. It took me a while to figure out what expand contract was. Feather made sense. I wonder, actually, I don't know if that's functional, but that's kind of nice. I like that it shows you actually how much feathering would happen with that red blur. Let's see. Smooth doesn't indicate anything.
That one's not quite working yet. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. So that's that. Oh, that was interesting. How it's like, no, you need to make a decision. Cancel. So let's looking at the move tool now. There's shear, which doesn't seem to work right now. Some sort of 3D tool, which I feel like I know that there are 3D tools in Photoshop and Illustrator, but I don't really know what they are.
That one doesn't quite work yet. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. This one doesn't?
I don't believe so, but go, you know, I wonder what you think it means. So that'll be interesting for me to, you know, have you review and see what you think one means.
I feel like there are some strange, like, editing features in Illustrator that I never used that this reminds me of, but I don't remember exactly how it works.
Okay.
Smudge tool? Nope. What else would this be aside from smudge? I don't know. Yeah, so, okay. How did I miss these before? I thought I looked in here before. Okay. Oh, wait, I need to deselect first, and then is this the magic wand? No, why is this? Okay. So just moving. Am I on the wrong layer? Okay, let's play with a different one. This one should be magic select. I wish I knew which layer I had content on, or which content was on which layer. Let me draw something new quickly. I'll use magic wand. Okay, I guess magic wand doesn't work. And then this one, I do not know what to expect. Yeah, I don't think any of these aside from lasso seem to work.
Okay. So if you do the lasso tool, just go ahead and make a selection again.
Nope, that did not select what I wanted.
Okay, make a selection on something, and let's explore the menus below that pop up. The move, the
Yep.
and more, and just talk about that. What you think each one of these does.
Yeah. So move is for moving the actual selection, not the actual content. So I guess if I drew it in the wrong spot, it would sort of be like, this is where I would go to fix that. Deselects it, so it turns off the selection. More, so view mode switches between the dashed lines around it and sort of filling the actual content with like some sort of overlay so you can see. Isolated seems interesting, which is it only shows you what's selected. Hide selection, show selection. Okay, that just, I don't know why you would want to have something selected but not show that it was selected.
Okay.
Invert. I mean, I assume that switches between selecting that and selecting everything except that. Mm-hmm. Save selection, I'm not entirely sure what that would do. Yeah, it gave me a thing up here.
Play with that a bit. Can you try to save a selection?
Okay, so save the selection. It says saved. What happens? Is there a home screen? No. I feel like this is going to be a paste type situation. Nope. Oh, I completely missed this bottom right-hand corner. Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah, so this creates, oh, load as mask.
Yeah, let's talk through that. What do you think that does for you?
Yeah, so let's say I've got a layer with stuff on it. Basically, you can use it as a layer mask like Photoshop. So, you know, I've got a bunch of content here and I only want to show what is in this weird circle-y shape. Let's move this over to here. Let's say I only want to show like just zoomed in on the magnifying glass and his eye. I could potentially, I guess, save that selection. Mm-hmm. And then, oh, I don't know if that's saved or not, but load it as a mask, which I would expect to show up here in the layer list. I guess on this layer or something. But I don't think it did because I didn't see anything happen. Oh, but maybe that content is on a different layer. Let's see. Okay, wait. So
let me not be fully working. So maybe talk about how you expect it to work if it's not working.
Okay. Okay, so if I loaded a layer, so let's say I have, okay, that's that layer. Okay, never mind. So, oh, this is on one layer. Okay, so I would expect it to sort of, so I've got all this content selected, or I have this layer selected, and I bring in this save selection, which is now different than before, which I guess is a bug. When I load that as a mask, I would expect this layer to somehow indicate that it was now masked by that selection. Okay. And that would be reflected in what I was in the drawing space as well.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Let's take another minute. If you can check out the first two brushes, right? Okay. And the first brush are the raster brushes, and the second brush is the vector brushes.
Okay.
I'd like some feedback on these icons. What do you feel about these icons and what they represent?
Now that you've explained them, it kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. I feel like in my mind, the vector, you know, it's normally like the Bezier curve, where you have something more like dots rather than just
since you can draw.
Yeah,
you draw what you're thinking. Okay, so
yeah, this guy right here.
That for you, the Bezier curve. Okay.
Yeah, so like, you know, maybe with a handle, but I feel like a handle would be more full. Now let me draw. There we go. Maybe with a handle. I'm just like exaggerating this a little bit.
Yeah.
But you know, I think the handle is probably overkill, but something that shows that there are points and lines. But I'm also, yeah, might make that a little clearer to me.
Okay. And what about the first brush for raster?
That one kind of makes sense, again, now that you explained it. I don't think I've got any other ideas for how you would do that.
That's okay. I'm just trying to gauge how intuitive these are, because it seems like you're saying, well, now that I've explained it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. What about the rest of the icons? Do you have any comments on the rest of the icons?
I think they mostly make sense. So let's see. Eraser makes sense. Move tool. I mean, I didn't know what some of these were.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel if I'm like selecting one and then that thing goes away, why not just show their labels while they're open? So like, the top one could say move to the right of it, and then you select that and it all goes away. And that way I could find out what everything actually was. I don't know what this paint selection tool is. I guess it's kind of like, how would I describe that? It would just follow a brush being more fill rather than selection. Mm-hmm. Magic wand, I know. I'm not entirely sure about this shape one, but maybe that's familiar to Photoshop users, people who use Photoshop more often. The bucket confused me at first, but I figured it out. Okay. And then this one is color picker. I assume the image one is to select an image from my iPad library and then drop it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the ones on the right, hide and show layer. Basically layer options. Yeah, that. I feel like there was another options like button somewhere, but that kind of makes sense. Or rather, it does make sense. Like once I've opened that, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense to be in there. Ooh, pixel masks. What is? There's a vector layer. What is that? I don't know what is going to happen here, but nope, no idea. Okay.
A little bit about
I assume this is.
Can you talk a little bit about that? You said something about there's a vector layer. What is that?
Yeah, so if I hold down the new layer button, I get, this is actually sort of what I was suggesting for the other side. So like show me what these two objects are. And it tells me there's a pixel layer and a vector layer. I have no idea what a vector layer would be. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a shape layer in Photoshop.
Okay.
But I don't see a way to make a shape over here. Mm-hmm. And I feel like normally you don't, in Photoshop, you wouldn't say make a shape layer and then make a shape. You would just make the shape and that would be a layer. So I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
Yeah, how this works. Hide and show a layer, delete a layer, an ellipsis, which I assume is more actions. I don't know what those would be. Save selections, some sort of view tool, which I guess is for like 3D drawing, and I have no idea what this one at the bottom is. The like two lines with the dot in the middle.
How do you feel about the fact that there's pixel layers and vector layers?
It doesn't necessarily seem like something I would use.
Right, because you use this in a very intricate way, right? Yeah.
Right. Like if it sort of basically led to if it basically led to the app Sketch being on iPad, I mean, that could potentially be cool, but I feel like that would take a very long time for it to get anywhere near useful. Okay. And then if it got to that point, then all the photo editing and raster editing stuff would get in the way. And so I probably wouldn't be super keen on it. Okay. So then it'd just be Photoshop.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other overall comments before we end the session, just about what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I think it's kind of tough to judge because it seems like on one hand it's intending to be a very like like an enterprise tool like Photoshop, like super fully featured, super functional. But it's kind of tough to judge when only a few of the features were working. And I think like since my illustration career is super like basic, I think there's it's sort of like it seems like overkill for me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your feedback. And I'm going to go ahead and stop broadcasting. So let's just go ahead and do that really